Hi everyone, welcome to Concepts to Consider, and this is where we take various concepts of God's Word and we discuss them. These are things that I think are important, especially in today's age. We need to have believers that stop and think and look within their own lives and see how a lot of the things that are contained in God's Word need to be considered. And so we look at some of these concepts to consider them, and hopefully it'll help strengthen you. Also, of course, we'd like it to grow you in the Lord, and also just to ponder throughout the day on what you've heard in this short little concepts to consider. Today, I want to talk to you about do you know what God's vision is of you? Which is something important to think about. How does God actually see you? Does he see you as something that crawled out of the water and is some kind of lesser being that he's got to put up with? Hopefully it's not how you see yourself and how you think God sees you, because that's an important thing. You need to know how you see yourself and how God sees you if you're going to kind of grow and go anywhere in the Lord. But I think also that, surprisingly, not much has changed since those first words of desire for a lookalike left God's mouth. When he imagined you and I, he said in Genesis, we read about it, and he says, let us make, Genesis chapter 2 I'm referring to here, let us make, and if we just stop and think about those words, that he had a dream to create a being that was able to fellowship and be his child, his offspring. This gripped his divine imagination as he considers this new action in terms of creating after his own kind. This had not happened before. Of course, he had created angels and other such things, but and creatures that we read of in the book of Revelations, the cherubim and seraphim and all these wonderful things. But nowhere do we read in the Bible that he says, let us make man in our image, or let us make the seraphim or cherubim or the angels in our image. You don't get that sense when you read the passage that I'm referring to, of course, in Genesis. This gripped his divine imagination, and you and I were actually designed, fashioned, formed, breathed into, and we were made living souls. What an amazing thing. And the fact that God the Father was not lonely in that sense. He was longing, yes, he was longing for, and we are the objects of that longing. He was longing for a relationship that no other up to this point of conception had entered into, this sort of community and communicative mutual relationship with the Godhead, Father, child, sense that we have as we read these different passages. And so when he says in Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, let us make man in our image, this wasn't a pipe dream. This wasn't just something out of reach at all. This was God who always is able, and he imagines, he creates within his understanding this concept of you and I. And I'm sure that that we were thought about. In other words, it wasn't just a whim, off the moment, spur of the moment kind of, hey, let's do something, I'm bored, let's create humanity. I don't think that was the way God approached this. It seems that it was considered, and he's addressing some kind of a divine council that's there around him. And he's addressing them, and he's very, direct. He doesn't throw it out there and say, what do you all think? Let's make some prototypes and then bring them to me, and I'll consider them, and if I like one of them, that's what we'll go with. He's clear, he's direct, and he says, let us make man in our image. What an amazing statement. And that is really God's image of you and I. We're created after his kind. We're not God by any stretch of the imagination, but we are of his kind. There is something of God deposited in us that reflects back to a father, his child. And he loves that child. his children, all the nations that we know. So much so that he was prepared to send his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, second person of the Godhead, Trinity, and to lay his life down to bring back his children, to reconcile his lost children back to him, his creation, that which was in his image, that which was of him, that came from him. And that's why we don't look to other people to understand who we are. We look to God because he created us. He knows exactly who you are meant to be. And he has a specific vision for you. If he had a vision to create you, then I'm sure he has a vision to continue a relationship with you and to perpetuate you in your relationship with him as you grow and grow closer to him. So his vision, to have you and I, and like Adam, clothed with his glory, reflecting his heart, children of the Most High, and we can keep on adding on those adjectives and descriptions of who we are. But just suffice to say that, and here's the challenge to you and I, don't lower the image God created you in. Don't lower what he created you to be by allowing the stealer of God's vision, Satan, who came in. Of course, we know he introduces sin and captivity and all the rest of those horrible things. Don't lower that image of what he created you to be and allow the enemy to come in and blur God's clear purposes and God's clear perspective of who you are. He loves you with an everlasting love. And we respond by saying, God, I love you. Show yourself to me as I reveal myself to you. Your Father, I'm your child, and here I am. And so accept and be acquainted with his divine dream, which is you and me. His virtual reality, which is you and it's me. And so this is a people, this is a you and I, filled with his nature, filled with more than just simply a statement, with his characteristics and all those types of various things that God has created us to be in our reflection of him. So be encouraged. Do you know what God's vision of you is? Think about that. Ponder about it. Consider it as a concept we need to understand. Thanks for joining us. Come back and back to this channel and as we consider various concepts throughout God's Word. Nice being with you. God bless you.